this is really something, possession in great measure. With this wag. We stay with individuality and we go to the 8 and the 14. And you can see that the 8 and the 14 are the perfect couplet for the 1 and the 2. Very close to each other. And they both complete each other's process. And when you're dealing with the 14th gate, because I'd like to actually start with the 14th gate. When you're dealing with the 14th gate, you're dealing with something that this is one of the most graced of gates. I mean, if you can grasp how important the second gate is, not so much in terms of individuals. I'm really talking about all of us as a form. Now, the second gate is the heart and soul of our evolutionary movement in space. It is the second gate that's driving us along as a species. But, this is G-center. G-center doesn't have a motor. It's not like the second gate is anything more than a driver. And you can be a driver, but if you don't have a car or you don't have fuel or whatever the case may be, being an unemployed driver is being an unemployed driver. The 2, can drive if you give it a chance, but you got to give it a chance. I always look at the 14th gate as the gas pedal. You put your foot up, you get that driver's so happy when it has a 14. Eh? I mean, away it goes. And if you look at the original I Ching, the 14th gate is like, wow, this is really something, possession in great measure. With this wagon being filled up, and all the resources being there. But when you look at it in the context of design, this is the gate of power skills. It's so difficult sometimes to really impress upon generators what they mean to the rest of us and what correctness means. See, if you're a sacral being and you have the 14th gate, when you're operating correctly, you have precisely the resources you need for the skills you need to display. Precisely. In the moment that you're not operating correctly, you begin to waste resources. And of course, everything that you do becomes less efficient. It just does. The 14th gate is enormously powerful. I mean, it is the gate of wealth and power. And not wealth and power, particularly in the mundane sense about how much money you have. But it is the rewards that come with being in the right direction. And that you can see that the planet as a whole, because when I do generator-specific lectures, I talk about how, generators literally maintain the life of the planet, literally, with each breath, all of them. And if you think about our evolutionary direction, you have to see that it's nice that we've got a 2. Thank you very much. Very good, we have a driver. But it doesn't mean anything without the sacral center. It doesn't mean anything. And only the sacral center drives our evolutionary movement. Only. And of course, we've got a planet full of dysfunctional sacral centers. So, we have all kinds of problems in our evolutionary direction. The kinds of things that lead to the dilemmas that, bring human beings on the search for something better. I mean, the 14th gate is for me the obvious indication of, this enormous responsibility that belongs to the generator world. I mean, I look out from my manifestor eyes. When I look out from being a manifestor and being a non-sacral being, it's so obvious to me that I live off the sacral world. It's obvious. There is no other way. This is a generator planet. And yet it's so clear to me that, I have to constantly compensate for the fact, that the generated environment is really not healthy. It's just not healthy. And it's so obvious. I mean, people assume that I'm just simply antisocial. I'm not. I'm anti-fucked up auras. This is something I'm really against. For me personally, I don't go into crowds. I don't walk in public spaces. I don't put myself in environments. I'm very sensitive. I got 3 open motors. I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to take all that stuff into my vehicle. And it's so clear to me that when I'm taking it in, most of the dysfunction is sacral. I have absolutely no gates in my sacral center. I am so sensitive to sacral beings. And it's just so obvious to me how dysfunctional it is. It's incredible. And then you look at, the 14.2, and you think, I mean, please let us fix that. That would really be nice. At least those of you that have the 14th gate, get your shit together. It'll really benefit all of us, move us along in a more clean way. It would really be terrific. Most of the time, it spirals into decadence, and it goes nowhere. So on one side of this polarity, you have the 14, and here you have this great resource, literally this great resource. But this resource that is for direction in life. And when you go to the other side, actually where we should be beginning, which is the 8th gate, the gates in the throat, opposite the ones we just looked at from the mind, but the gates in the throat that are coming up from the G center, these are the great bitter gates. They're bitter, sour, And they really they're projected elements, throat to the G. And they seem to have been given greatness, and yet, what to do? You meet somebody who's a 31-7 that doesn't connect to a motor, and you get the picture right away. I'm a leader, but there's no one to lead. I'm a leader, and nobody notices I'm a leader. And if I were a leader, I would change the world, blah, 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 on and on. Vote for me, and I'll put a chicken in your pot that doesn't have bird flu. Anyway, if you go to the 3313, you get the prodigal. I've seen it. I know what it is. Let me tell you. No, I can't listen to you today. I don't have any time. Here are all these people talking about what's going on. I see what it is because I know the story from the past and I know the secrets. Why won't you let me tell you? They don't get recognized. They're bitter as hell. And nothing is more bitter than the 8-1. Right? Oh, 8-1s. Do they suffer? Right? I'm the creative role model, Don't you see me? I mean, that's all they want. They don't want anything else. Just see me. Right? I mean, that's the whole thing about individuality is just looking for access. Just see me. Just hear me. Right? So when you're dealing with the 8th gate, you are dealing with, like those 3 gates, you're dealing with a gate of articulation. These are gates that are designed to speak. To speak. So the 8th gate is there to represent the unique direction. And the unique direction, supposedly, that can be contributed to the whole. Many years ago, I had a lot of fun with, in the early days when I was describing all of these things. When you look at these 3 channels between the G center and the throat, think about an airplane that takes off and it crashes in a jungle. Nobody gets hurt. It crashes in a jungle. And you have these 3 examples that are part of the grouping. Right? And the 731, the leader, the logical one, it says, well, I was watching out the window and the sun and blah, 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 and we were only flying for 17 minutes and we were going due west and we were probably doing 200 miles an hour and I think I know where we are and I think I see the pattern, follow me. And then you have the abstract 3313, and there's always these, well, I've seen these things on television. I remember these kinds of things. If you go out there trying to find your way out, you're going to die. Why don't we stay here? Okay. Based on past experience, we should just light flares, make fires, and wait. They'll come for us. Now, the 8-1 is an entirely different story. The 8-1 stands up, looks at everybody and says, I know how to get out of here, and I'm going. And they leave. They leave. They don't wait for, this is not collective sharing now, this is empowerment. They just leave. I want to tell you something. If you see them go, follow them. Chances are they'll get out. But the whole thing about the 8-1 is that all it wants is that attention. All three of those channels, what they seek more than anything else is attention. And remember, if you look at an undefined throat center, the strategy of an undefined throat center is always trying to attract attention. So you end up with a mind that says, if I do that, how many people will see me? If I do this, who will see me? Maybe somebody important will see. It's always about attracting attention. It's always a strategy underneath. So all of these channels are all about getting attention. So when you look through the eyes of the 8 and the 14, what you get to see is where the power is and where it isn't. You get to see who can make a contribution and who can't. You get to see that most human beings don't know how to make a contribution. You see how difficult it is to be recognized. These are the eyes that you look out there and you see clearly that without the energy, without the skills, you can never get to the point where you get to realize your potential. And the 814, those nodes. Most of the people who look out from the 814 nodes end up feeling very, very depressed about the potential of human beings, the potential of others, because they themselves see how difficult it is to realize their own potential in that sense. Everything about, when I look at the mechanics of the body graph as a whole, it's so obvious that no matter where you look, you have a way. There's always a way to be fulfilled in your process. There is always a way. And it's clear that when you look at all of the various aspects of seeing, what you finally get is an understanding that there is not simply one way. There is no single path. There are all of these possibilities. It's incredible how many ways there are, to reach one's potential. But the 14, more than any other gate, it is the very basis of our material lives. And more than anything else, when you look out through the 14, you see two things. You see those that have, and you see all those that don't have. You see the material. And it is out of this 14th gate lies our very capacity to have a material direction in life. And it's something to understand about this source, this possession in great measure, that it says there is no other way but the material way. None, because we are bioforms. We are material forms. There is no other way but materialism, and there are many brands of it. But the reality is that this is what the 14 sees. This is a material world. Jesus, I could do a Madonna routine.
ולוקחת את 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 תמונות. התמונה הזאת היא באמת בול, כאילו, ממש גבולי כזה, אבל אם השורה האמצעית תהיה מתחת, אז יהיה מקום לסקרינשוט שמראה את הגוף והאישיות. תמיד אפשר להיכנס ולראות את זה פה, בשני הצדדים האלה. עכשיו זה הולך להיות בעצם, טוב. אז בלבוא לפגוש בפעם הבאה, שזה בעצם, זה אצלי הבעצם הזה, אבל גם אצלך, ה-14 הוא כל הזמן בעצם, ה-44 אצלך פתוח ונפגש איתי. 26 הוא כאילו הטריקיות בחיים, וגם קשור ללב ולתאי T, שהם כאילו יוצאים לאיזה מלחמה נגד איזה משהו לא בריא בגוף בעצם. פה ה-26 ו-44 שאני בעצם מביאה לך וסוגר לך גם את מרכז האגו. כשאנחנו מתחברות ביחד אנחנו 9-0, כי בעצם אני ממלאת את כולך ואת ממלאת את כולי. אז אנחנו גם ברגעים האלה ש-too much כזה להיות ביחד בעילה, בכל מקרה לי זה מאוד ברור וחשוב שכשאנחנו too much ביחד בעילה, אז למרות שזה כאילו סוגר לי גם כן פיצול מאוד משמעותי, וזה סוגר לי, והתוכנית סוגרת לך כאן, וזה סוגר לך, לא סוגר לך פיצול. כאילו מבחינת פיצולים, מי שסוגר